Hey, Margie here. Today we're delving into joint pain because so many people think they have to live with aching joints. And today we're going to show you there's so much that you can do. Our special guest is Jane Hogan, also known as the Wellness Engineer. And Jane blends science and spirituality to help people release joint pain by naturally letting go of inflammatory foods, thoughts, and feelings so they can become the most magnificent version of themselves. Her personal experience of overcoming crippling rheumatoid arthritis using natural solutions inspired her to leave a nearly 30-year engineering career and become a functional medicine certified health coach. Through Jane Hogan Health, Jane applies her engineering problem solving skills to help others build a solid foundation of mind body wellness and design their own unique path back to strength, vitality, and freedom. Jane is the creator of Wonderful Find, an anti inflammatory living membership program, helping women activate optimal health by intentionally designing a life based on what their own body needs. She is also the host of Wellness by Design, a weekly live show dedicated to helping people intentionally design a life for wellness. So today we're going to talk about the joints and what can we all do to keep our joints healthy and reduce joint pain. So full of lots of great information. So stay tuned. Welcome, Jane. I'm really, really excited to have you here. I know we've been trying to get this podcast interview together. I don't know, almost a year. It's really been a long time. So yay, the day is finally here. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Margie. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you today. I know we got so many similar interests, and so this is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So I like to always start by asking people how they got to where they are, because the backstory really lets people understand what the passion and I think it brings it all together why you're doing this work that you do. So how did you get, why don't you start? Because you started as an engineer. So from going from an engineer to working with people with joint pain is a big transition. So why don't you fill us in on that?
It really is. It's kind of like, what? Totally. I was totally not in health at all before, and now I am. So yeah, I had a career as a civil engineer for 30 years, and I taught at a college. I taught engineering technology at a college for 25 of those years, and I was doing my thing. But in 2016, I had a really emotionally stressful year, and I ended up at the end of the year having this migrating joint pain, and it would be really severe. Like, it was in my shoulder and I had to put my arm in a sling. And then the next day it would be the next shoulder. And then, my elbows, my hands, my knees, my feet, my jaw, it just started migrating around. And I had no energy too. I was just, had no energy at all and couldn't sleep very well. And really going downhill pretty quickly. And so it was about a 3-month period from the first joint pain until I could almost not walk. Like, I had so much inflammation in my knees and my feet that I was just like shuffling, and I'd take the steps like one step at a time, like an old lady. And I had been active and vibrant and healthy and strong up to that point. So I kind of knew that there was something going on related to stress for sure, because it had come out of stress. And so anyway, didn't really know what it was. Nothing was showing up in my blood work. My doctor said, we'll make an appointment with a rheumatologist, but it was going to take months to get in, because where I live in Newfoundland in Canada, and there's not a lot of rheumatologists. So we have to wait. And anyway, my doctor suggested in the meantime that sometimes food could be related to joint pain. And I thought this was a crazy idea. So 2016, this first I ever heard of it. Now, maybe people are a bit more aware of it now, but back then I had never heard of this before. But I was so desperate, Margie, that I thought, okay, I'll just give it a try. I've got nothing to lose. And I really had made a decision at that point that if either I'm going downhill and nothing's going to change, or I have to do something and I have to figure it out, because nothing medically was showing up with the doctor. So anyway, I made a decision I was going to do something. So I tried this food and I started to feel better like within days, which was kind of amazing. So then I was of course researching with Dr. Google. So then I started researching natural remedies for joint pain and learned a whole lot more, discovered functional medicine along the way. I got books, read all kinds of stuff. Anyway, discovered functional medicine, got better and better and better, discovered a lot more along the way. In the beginning, I thought it was all about food. And then I realized, no, there's more, there's lifestyle. Oh no, there's more, there's your emotions. There's all these layers and layers, which has been really an interesting journey. But I've basically reversed my symptoms. So I'm pretty happy about that. It did turn out to be rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition. So along the way, I discovered functional medicine. I thought, I want to tell people about this. In fact, I was trying to tell people, but it didn't go over very well at parties. So, so people didn't want to hear it. You shouldn't be eating that. So I thought I need a platform and a way that I can talk to people. And I wanted to learn more myself. So I did the health coaching program at the Institute for Functional Medicine, or through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And then I really thought, this is really what I want to do. This is what fires me up. I've been an educator as well as an engineer. And so I've just kind of switched now. I'm educating people on how to heal joint pain naturally. And this is what I love. I love working with my clients. I have a membership program for women, and I just love, love, love what I do. I wake up every morning and can't wait to, how am I going to spread the word today? So it's been fun.
So many things are so fabulous. Number one, I think it's encouraging to everybody who's listening, because so often you will go to the doctor and they'll say, oh, I don't see anything. Your x-ray's okay. Nothing major turns up. And they're like, and so many people, oh my God, I can't even tell you as a physical therapist, how many people believe they have to live with this. And it's just, oh, I'm getting older. And that's not the case. And you're living proof, plus you work with so many people. So I think this is really exciting. Everyone who's listening, and you may have a little pain here or a little pain there, there's things that can be done. And that's,
yes.
And it's so let's just dig right into this, because, again, people think, and they think that, oh, exercise, I'll just exercise. But a lot of times there's more to it. So let's start with the diet, since where you began with your quest, in terms of what types of inflammation seem to be affecting the joints. And now you've been working with people from all over with joint pain. What similarities have you seen? Are there certain foods that seem to cause inflammation? Or what's your take on the relationship with the diet and the joints? Just the basic things.
Well, I mean, for sure, as you know, what we call food in our culture, a lot of it is not food. It's not nourishing. We've got a population that's obese, but nutrient deficient, because the food doesn't have enough nutrients in it. And plus there's a lot of chemicals. So, I think when I work with different people, some people just need to kind of get rid of what I would call the worst 7 foods. And that's enough for them. And then other people, if they've got a severe case of, leaky gut, I'm sure you've talked about that on your podcast before, but where you've got intestinal permeability, then they may be sensitive to some foods. So they may need to go on more of like a therapeutic kind of plan for an elimination type of thing. They're going to eliminate foods for a while and then reintroduce them so they can identify what foods they may be sensitive to. So it's kind of like, let's start with this and then see where we go.
I love that. Do you want to fill us in on your 7 7?
Well, I'm sure different people have different 7.
Right, but you're 7. I'm doing, because you've worked with joint pain. So, people work with food sensitivities with different issues. But since I'm just curious for joint pain, with your experience, what have you seen in terms of your 7?
Well, gluten and dairy and sugar really are big ones. But chemicals in food, like additives and chemicals in food, aren't good for anyone. And if your body is trying to deal with that, well, then it can't deal with staying well and keeping everything functioning properly. So that's 4. Gluten, dairy, sugar, food additives. Oh, processed oils, so that's the canola oil, safflower oil, yeah, sunflower oil, those different types of vegetable oils. As you know, they're oxidized already, creates oxidative stress in the body.
And a lot of
And
people don't, that's a good one, because a lot of people don't realize that. They think
no,
vegetable oil is healthy. So yes,
I
absolutely.
know. And I know for me that those are a huge trigger for me. Like if I have any bit of those, I know right away. So I know that that's something for me. I'm not dealing with very well, the oxidation. And then the other ones are corn and soy and products that are made from corn and soy. Now, if people just not eliminate, but at least begin to use less processed foods, packaged foods, then that's going to help a lot, right? And
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, that'll take them a long way. Just eating like real food. So I don't like to get too complicated with it. I just think of it as look at your plate, have a protein about the size of the palm of your hand. The rest of the plate should be vegetables, and then have some nice fats along with it. Good
Sounds
healthy fats.
sounds great. And that's the thing. Sometimes when you just eliminate a few things, miracles happen.
Oh yeah. I see it. Like I'm running a 21-day gut reset right now. And I met with the group last night, and it's only been 2 weeks in. And, one lady said, I'm not limping anymore. Another one said, my shoulder pain is gone. Another one said she's just feels better because I incorporate the food as well as like mindset, meditation, relaxation. And that is huge as well. I would say if you don't deal with that part, even when you eat healthy food, you may not be digesting it well if you're still under a lot of stress and feeling crappy about yourself and those kinds of things.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, because that's
I know.
no, I mean, and that's exactly my belief. So I love that. And I think it's so wonderful that you incorporate all of these pieces. So why don't we just go there right now in terms of the connection between the science, the spirituality, and how all these pieces, it's not just enough to be stressed out and say, okay, this stinks, but I'm giving up gluten and dairy and sugar. I hate this, but I'm doing it because it's going to help my joints. So why don't you fill us in on this spirituality piece to it, and the mindset, and how that sort of relates to the healing and what you've seen?
Yeah. Well, meditation and relaxation, these practices, prayer, they've been around for thousands of years, and we've known that it works. We know that a lot of these energy medicine modalities work. And actually I trained in Reiki back in 2009. So I've had kind of this going on as well, that I've always had this belief in the spiritual and the energy types of work. But since I've been doing my studies and learning more and more about the body, there's actually scientific reasons behind this. So what happens is that when we go through meditation, or we relax, or we change our thoughts and we feel good, we of course move into the parasympathetic state instead of the sympathetic state. So the sympathetic state is the fight, flight, fear. And when we're in that state, we're not digesting well. Our immune system is not functioning well. None of our systems, our endocrine system, our reproductive system, our circulatory system, our skeletal system. So none of these are working optimally when we're in that fight or flight mode, because our brain thinks we need to survive. So forget fighting off an infection. We might need to run from a tiger now, right? So our muscles tense up and everything. So in that state, we're not healing. So we want to get ourselves in the parasympathetic state, which is the rest, relax, rejuvenate, which should be our normal state. And that's where all of our systems start running like an engine that's just purring instead of sputtering and backfiring. So when we're in that state, that's what we want to aim for. And that's when we can heal. So if you're spending all your time in the sympathetic state, always in a state of stress, and we've got so much stress, we don't even realize we're under stress. So when we're in that state, of course, we're not healing. Our systems are starting to fail. We may get digestive problems, and then about 80% of our immune system is in the gut. So when we start getting digestive problems, and we get leaky gut, got stuff leaking in, and our immune system gets alerted, and then we get inflammation.
Oh, there's so many things here. So I think what we're going to do, I want to get really deep into the stress because everybody right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody, the stress levels. And the truth is, everybody has stress. Life is stressful. So it's not that we're going to reduce, we're not, the stress,
No.
but we can deal with it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But you just talked about the gut. And there's a huge relationship between the gut and joint pain. So I'd like to know
Yes.
what you see. And, sometimes we need to start with the gut. Do you find that like a lot of times you just have to start with the gut
Oh,
so why don't you fill us in on what you've seen with the gut
yeah.
and joint pain and what, maybe give us a little bit of things that people can do.
Mm. So the people that I see, yes, they have joint pain, and most of the time I think we can make a pretty good assumption that most of it starts in the gut, whatever kind of joint pain you've got. Because as I said, about 70-80% of our immune system is in the gut, and joint pain is inflammation, and inflammation happens when our immune system is triggered. So there may be some exceptions where the arthritis or the joint pain comes from some other source, but pretty much everything I've seen and everyone that I've worked with, when we start addressing the gut and the stress, or how we feel about the stress, that changes everything. So yeah, the gut is where you start, because by the time someone has joint pain, they probably have an inflamed intestine, and so we need to heal that. We need to get it healed so that we stop fanning the flames of inflammation in the gut. Inflation too. We don't want to fan those flames. So we want to stop fanning the flames of inflammation. So we need to calm it down. Just calm it down by stop putting in the big triggers for sure, and then maybe work on some others. Start drinking water. Like a lot of people just aren't drinking enough water, and that will help as well. And then of course addressing the stress. So yeah, I find getting rid of the 7 big ones. And a simple thing to do is just start meal planning, because I don't think anyone really plans on having crappy food, but when you're leaving it to the last minute, when you're hungry, it's easier to grab for things. So meal planning is really big. And drinking water, great, like simple places to start. I love starting simple, right?
Yes, I think those are really good because you're right. If all of a sudden, I have to have lunch and there's nothing available, and if you do that little bit of planning, that's such an incredible tip. But I wanted to just talk about something else you said, because as a physical therapist, so often people don't take care of it. There's a little difference, I think, and tell me, you can shed some light on this. If someone has a hip that one small area of pain, that's it, the rest of their body feels great, it's really isolated to one small area, versus the joint pain you're discussing, it may be here, it may be there, maybe both knees. Do you see that it's more diffuse in terms of versus like one small localized area? What have you seen, when it's
I've
yeah.
seen it all. I've seen people with inflammation and joint pain all over. And then you reminded me of a client of mine right now who's got pain in one hip, and she's had it for years and years and years. A lot better. So we're really working on some of the mindset stuff now, which is quite interesting, because she's got quite a great sense of humor, and she likes to make a joke about how hers is right in her SI joint, and so she likes to make a joke that she's her own pain in the butt. And but I talk about how our subconscious mind, which is it's running the autonomic nervous system. It's running that, whether we're in fight or flight, and everything that's going on in our body that we don't have to think about. It's all ran by the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind it doesn't have a sense of humor. So if you're in your conscious mind and in your words, you're saying, I'm my own pain in the butt, well, keep getting more of that. It's kind of interesting.
It's so true. And I've seen that for years, because I've worked with people with pain, and I completely agree to you. If you're focusing on the pain and you keep bringing it others, so this is just great information. But sometimes it's just, someone would think, oh, I'm not going to go to a physical therapist, let's deal with this. Oh, you need a total hip, or you need this and that. But I think the important part is also deal with this piece, deal with all these pieces, because it's amazing that And I know you've seen this, that it's, how you can actually reduce joint pain with what you're talking about. So let's go to the mind piece, and let's go to the stress, because it's a really positive thing. When you learn these techniques, your entire life transforms. So not only do you improve your joint pain, but everything improves. But before we do this, I just wanted to tell people one quick thing, because there are people listening with osteoporosis. And I've seen this so much, because a lot of people think osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and they have joint pain because of osteoporosis, which rarely osteoporosis isn't painful. It's just that they have joint pain. It doesn't go with it. And they think it's, arthritis. But it's amazing when you do some of the things that you've talked about. I've seen so many times the arthritis just goes away, the pain goes away. So this is just really good stuff. So all right, why don't we talk about science, spirituality, and how you bring that piece in?
Yeah, well, I talked about the mind a little bit, and I really I love the way the mind is so powerful. I mean, I remember hearing stories years ago about hypnosis and people being told under hypnosis that, their skin was burning and the skin would literally like bubble up. So the fact that we can have a physical response or a physiological response to a suggestion in the brain is kind of blows my mind a little bit. So I love all of that part of it. And I also love the energy part. So and this comes down, this isn't the physics that I learned in engineering, but quantum physics is, and I hope this isn't going to scare anyone off when I talk about physics, but let's just talk about the atom. And what they found with quantum physics is that the atom is, there's a nucleus where the positive charge is. And if you imagine that that's about the size of a car, all around it is an electron cloud of energy. And that cloud, relative to the size of the car, would be about the size of the state of Washington. So that's how much energy there is and space in a single atom. Now, we are made up of cells, which are made up of molecules, which are made up of atoms. So we are actually mostly energy. So we respond to energy, and energy is, it's all around us. Energy is our thoughts, and our energy is our feelings. Energy comes from the food. Energy comes from our, everything around us. So we're always responding to energy. So so when I come down to that, okay, all right. So energy is important. How can we create energy? Well, have you ever noticed how you when you change your emotions, you feel different physically? So if we want to change ourselves physically, then we need to change the energy, and we can do that by changing our emotions, especially with the heart, because the heart puts out the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. It can be measured several feet away outside of the body just with the instruments that we have now. So that means it is our most powerful organ, and everyone thinks that the brain is running the show, but it's really the heart sends the signals to the brain then goes and operates the rest of it, but it comes from the heart. So if we can change our emotions, then we can start to send different signals in our body, get our brain, well, we get our heart coherent when we have positive emotions. And so when we have negative emotions, it's incoherent. It's kind of like, as I mentioned, that engine that's backfiring and sputtering. But when we can feel positive emotions of love and joy and compassion and those kinds of emotions, we put our heart into coherence. And you can even feel, people say, oh, my heart swelled, right? That's that feeling. So you get your heart into coherence. That creates coherence between the heart and the brain. It creates coherence between the hemispheres of the brain. And that gets us back into that parasympathetic mode, which then we get the physical manifestation of systems running, everything operating as it should, as a nice, smooth engine.
That's so great. So the good thing, though, is that this has been proven. I mean, HeartMath
Yes.
Institute, they've done studies on this, and it's such an easy technique. Can you go over the technique with everybody for a minute?
Sure. So I'll talk about it and then we'll do it, or
Yeah,
should we
because
just do it?
no, talk about it because I
Okay.
think, what's so nice? This is something that's so easy that everybody can do. You can leave this interview right now, put it into your life, and just if you did nothing else, if you heard nothing else, am I right? And
Yeah,
just started instituting this on a regular basis, you could really make a complete change in your stress level. I mean, that's how powerful
absolutely.
this is. So yes, let's go
Yeah.
ahead.
And
Absolutely.
it only takes 3 minutes. Really, or even less. I mean, it's very powerful. So the way it works is that we begin. You can do your eyes open or closed. It might just be easier in the beginning to have your eyes closed. You can put your hands on your heart if you want to, but you don't have to. And you start just noticing your breath. And then you start to imagine that you're breathing into your heart. So every time you breathe in, you're breathing into your heart. So you're really focusing your thoughts, which are energy, in your heart. Then you start to remember an event or a person or a place that made you had a really good positive emotion. So it might be you're remembering when a child was born or whatever will bring up a really intense positive emotion for you of love, joy, compassion, kindness, courage, valor, excitement even. So any of these positive emotions, you think about one of those, you get it nice and detailed, and then you try to imagine, you try to stop thinking about it and feel it in your heart. And then you breathe into that, you get it nice and big, and that's really it. That's really it.
And that's what's so great, that if you make this a habit, right, just putting your hands on your heart will elicit this relaxation and this
Yeah.
incredible response that can have, it's amazing how it can have so many powerful effects, like you
Hmm.
said.
Yeah. When you practice this regularly, your heart rate variability goes up. And so I don't know if you've talked about this on your podcast before about heart rate variability, but it's the variation between successive heartbeats. And they used to think that a real even variation was no variation basically was good, but now they know it's better when there's variation, so they're not all the same. And we get that when we slow down the breath and when we do this heart focused breathing. They've proven that this heart rate variability goes up. And when heart rate variability goes up, it's probably the number one indicator of health. It's the number one indicator of health. It's also the number one indicator of longevity. So the more you can get yourself into this state of heart coherence, you increase your heart rate variability, you're increasing your health, you're increasing your longevity. So it's kind of a win-win. So it's a beautiful thing.
It really is, and it's easy, and it's
Mm.
something. I mean, just think, here you have joint pain, and one tool you can use is just doing this very, very simple technique that
Yeah.
everybody could put into their life. And,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, the fun thing. They seem too easy to be so effective. No, I have to do major, major strengthening. Let's say you have knee pain, major strengthening of my knees. And yes, that's important. Yes, it's important. As a physical therapist, this exercise, everything's important. But this is equally as important and so very powerful.
Yeah, because as we said, when we do this and we can get that autonomic nervous system into that parasympathetic mode, then it allows our body to do the healing. We're allowing it to heal instead of blocking the healing.
And I don't think people realize that you have to, right, you can't heal in that sympathetic state. Just like you said, you need to, it's almost the prerequisite, that you have to first, before you can really heal, you have to first get yourself in. So that's
Yeah.
almost it's really the groundwork. It's the
Yes.
groundwork. Everything else builds upon it, but this is the foundation. And it's
Yeah.
so important that when you're thinking of pain and when you're thinking of joint pain, don't skip 2 levels. So yes, I have to go to physical therapy, but yes, you have to deal with all these other areas that
Hmm.
you mentioned. So I think
Hmm.
this is just so great. That's
You're absolutely right, Margie, because I think what I found, even though I started with food, it took me a long time. And if I had realized that I had to get calm first and feel good first, everything would have been faster. right? I
You know,
just
it's
didn't
funny
know
because
it at the time.
it's really funny because I started as a physical therapist with physical manifestations. So the food wasn't even part of it till I went back to school because realized how important
Mhm.
food was. And then the mindset I've always done. But it's just funny how it all, it all
It all
ties
comes
in. And when
together.
you see that just the physical isn't working or it's just a piece of it, everybody
Yeah.
needs to, I think the listeners just see what piece you're missing because this is
Mhm.
so important. But there's something else I really want to touch on because I think it's a very important concept. And about our genes. A lot of people will say, oh, my mom had arthritis. It runs in our family. Of course, I'm going to get it. And that
Mhm.
doesn't have to be. So why don't you explain
Yeah.
that a little bit? Because this is good news, everybody. Listen in.
It is good news. It is good news because people just they give up because it seems hopeless for them that they can't get past it. So, yeah, the whole field of epigenetics when they did the Human Genome Project back in the early 90s, what they found was, to their surprise, that less than 2% of genes are responsible for permanent coding, and there's very very few illnesses that are gene like a direct result of one gene. Most illnesses, in fact, most chronic illnesses, are actually the result of several genes, many genes, expressing or turning on. So genes create proteins, and that's in response to the environment. So the environment means it means what we're eating, what we're drinking, the air we breathe, what's touching our skin, our relationships, our thoughts, and our feelings. All of these things affect how the genes express. The good news is that for the most part, we control our environment. We can control our environment. It comes down to being intentional, though. You have to create an intention. And I let you use the word manifestation earlier. You're creating a manifestation of what you want, how you want to live, to create positive gene expression. So you turn off the genes for illness and turn on the genes for wellness.
Isn't that great, everybody? That we have it, it comes with two things. It comes with, yes, that's really exciting. And B, I can't just blame it on, oh, I have those genes. But once I take responsibility, whatever
Yeah.
it is, it can be very slow responsibility, certainly not overwhelmed, but that things can improve. And that's,
Yeah.
you're direct proof of that and all the people you work with. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it's really, really exciting and such good news.
It is good news, and it's so empowering and really moves people from feeling like a victim to feeling empowered. And that's the beauty of it. So that's one reason why I do what I do, is to let people know that it's possible, that they
And
can change their environment.
And I think everyone now, there's a lot of things we can't change right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world that really are beyond our control. But guess
Yeah.
what? We can control a lot of our environment.
Yes.
And that's and when you do that, even pick one thing, that it's
Mm.
amazing. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's so very
Yeah.
exciting.
And
And
our interpretation of the environment too, our thoughts and feelings, we can control that. Like, I didn't really know that for a lot of years. I just thought, well, I just react to whatever happens. No, you can create the feeling that you want. Well, in that heart focused breathing, you're creating a feeling, you're changing your physiology. So you can create the feelings that you want, and that changes everything.
It's so true. I saw that really early on in my career when I was working with chronic pain patients, that they were so miserable. But once we changed, taught them some of the happiness habits that got me through things, it was amazing. Muscle spasm went away, pain went away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
absolutely, I so agree with every single thing you're saying. There's one more thing though I just wanted
Yep.
to talk about, because I know you talk about this. So yes, you're going to eliminate the food and eat healthier, but we also have to worry about how we eat, not just what we're eating. Do you want to just touch on that piece? Because I don't want to leave that out, because that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love to have something that people can implement like right away. What can I do today? Because changing the way you eat, it can take a while, and it seems like a big block for people. So I like to give them something right away that they can implement today to start feeling better. And that is changing how you eat, because you can be eating the greatest food, but if you're wolfing it down and you're feeling crappy and you got terrible news on, you're not going to digest it well. And so you're going to be losing some of the benefit of it if you don't create some mindfulness and some peace and calm while you're eating. So yeah, that's one thing I love to do, is teach people how to have peace and calm while they're eating. It helps. It's not just like, well, because it's a nice thing to do. It does actually help with digestion, because our digestion begins in our brain. It doesn't, people think, oh, in the mouth or in the stomach. It's actually in the brain. Our brain prepares our body to digest. So we need to start with the brain and get that digestion going with mindful eating.
Well, I have a question for you. Let's be transparent. Did you always eat mindfully? You personally?
No, 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 no. I was right. It's still a challenge for me, Margie. I still have to remember. Actually, I got three little things that I put on my table that remind me of the 3 points that I always tell my clients. So relax, savor the food, and chew the food. So yeah, I always rushed. We had 3 kids that were involved with everything. It was like rush, rush, rush. I was a working mom. I was, president of the swim club, ran the chess club, doing all these things. We were rushing all the time. So it was almost embarrassing. We'd have people over and we'd be like all finished really quickly. I kind of thought, too bad for them. They eat so slow. That's what I thought at the time. So yeah, it's something I've had to learn, and it's a change. So it's a good thing though.
It's funny because I think back to my physical therapy days. The goal was to shove the food in as absolutely fast as you possibly could to get to the next patient. And it was, that was my mode of operation. And then, one day it hit me that I wasn't practicing what I preached. And, and it's so important. And you really do have to make a concerted effort. And once you do, right, everything, you never want to go back, because it's such a pleasure. And for everyone who also with osteoporosis or you want to absorb your nutrients. And if you're shoving, just like you said, you're not going to get the absorption if you're shoving the food in and not letting the digestion with the chewing, with the savoring and everything else you said. So that's just so very, very important.
It's like anything, when you start and it becomes a habit, then it's it seems like it's different in the beginning, but once you keep going with this, you do develop a habit, and then it's cemented. So it's a good habit.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even, when I look back, I just, oh my gosh, But I have a question for you. So you have a great gift. You want to tell everybody about the gift that you're offering? And we'll have all the links for this in the show notes. So why don't you tell everybody?
Yep. Well, I do have this little PDF that people can download, and it's about mindful eating. And I explain what to do, but I also explain why to do it. Because that's the way I am. I always want to know the why behind it. Why do I have to do that? When you understand why you're doing these things, then it will help motivate you to do them. So yeah, it's 3 things, simple things you can do to calm inflammation while you're eating. And when you calm inflammation, it's going to, it helps with the pain. It'll help the pain go down as well. And it may seem very simple, but creating this habit has profound effects.
That's what I'm all about. Simple tweaks that have profound effects. And that's what it is. And I think for those people listening, when all of a sudden your joint pain feels better, you're like, oh my gosh. And that's why I'm so excited. I love doing this podcast, because the people out there who just think they have to live with this, their mom had it, all the things we talked about. And this has been so reassuring that there's so much you can do. And and again, there are physical reasons. Sure. If you have a there definitely are physical reasons why you may be having joint pain. So not to underestimate, you need to get an evaluation and see orthopedists sometimes. So it's not to say that there's never that problem, but so often, just like you said, there's other things and just a tremendous amount that can be done. So before we end, is there anything that you want to, any like last words you want to enlighten people to, or anything else that we missed that you just want to share?
Well, I'd just like to reiterate again to give that heart focused breathing a try. Super simple, and it can really change your life. And you can teach it to little kids. You can teach it to old people. You can do it anywhere, anytime. So it's a super practice to help Get you nice and calm. Good thing to do right before you eat too.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm big with that, teaching people to breathe before they eat, because they'll even lose weight just by doing that. It's such it, and you remember to do it. So often, yeah, I'll do that breathing, but I don't do it. But if you know you're doing it before you eat, guess what?
Yeah.
You do it. So I
Yeah.
love that. Well, you've given us so many great things. And I think this is just, and sometimes, if you're listening, say, oh yeah, don't think like that. These things are really powerful. Take it from the two of us who have seen that. We've seen, look how you've seen all this with joint pain, and it's amazing. So I can't thank you enough. I'm excited you're sharing your PDF with everybody, and I think that will be a great resource. And we'll have all your information as well. So if people, want to learn more about you and need help with their joint pain,
Excellent.
Do you also work with people one-on-one in terms of?
Yep. I work with people one-on-one, and I have a membership program for women, monthly membership. Just you can come in, stay 1 month or as long as you like.
Great.
Ladies in there, been in there over a year now. And also I've got a happy gut reset program that I offer periodically as well. So yeah.
Sounds good. Well, that's the perfect thing for the Happy Bones podcast, the Happy Gut. Happy.
That's right.
Well, anyway, having you here has made me happy. I feel all this great energy, and I hope we can send that out to all of you who are listening. So thank you, Jane. This has been just such a pleasure, and I look forward to staying in touch, and good, and just wishing you all the best as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Margie. This has been fantastic. I love every opportunity to be able to share this information with people and give people hope.
Oh, well, thanks so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. I hope you've enjoyed my interview with Jane as much as I have, and now have some new techniques that you can add to your toolbox to reduce joint pain and keep your joints functioning optimally. All the links we talked about will be in the show notes. So bye for now, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.